I stood by the kitchen counter, my fingers absently tracing the rim of the wine glass I had poured an hour ago. The scent of vanilla from the lit candle mixed with the slow-cooked aroma of my husband's favorite lasagna. It was our anniversary. 10 years. A full decade of what I thought was love, partnership, loyalty. He was late. That in itself wasn't new. Work emergencies, client dinners, he always had something. But tonight felt different. There was an eerie silence in the house, and the flowers he usually sent by noon hadn't arrived. He hadn't even responded to my good morning text. My heart had a strange, fluttery tension I couldn't name. At 8:37 p.m., I finally checked his location through the tracking app we both had installed voluntarily, back when trust had been simple, almost naive. His stuff wasn't moving. In fact, it was stagnant at a hotel downtown. My breath hitched. I tapped the app again to refresh. Still there. I stared at the screen as if blinking enough would change what I saw. That wasn't the office. It wasn't a restaurant. It was the Meridian, a boutique hotel we'd once stayed in 2 anniversaries ago. The irony twisted something in my gut. I grabbed my coat, left the lasagna in the oven, and headed out. I didn't text him. I just drove. The city lights blurred past as my hands gripped the wheel tighter with each block. What was I expecting? That he was there planning a surprise? That maybe he had arranged something elaborate and forgot to tell me? But that's not how surprises work. The lobby smelled exactly like I remembered. Clean linens, lavender, and a hint of bergamot. The receptionist looked up and smiled politely as I walked in, but I didn't return it. I didn't need to check in. I already knew where he was. Room 514. My stomach churned again. I reached the elevator and pressed the button. My reflection in the stainless steel doors stared back at me. Eyeliner slightly smudged, hair tousled, lips pursed tight enough to turn white. I looked like someone on the brink of unraveling. The 5th floor was quiet. Too quiet. Each step toward room 514 sounded louder than the last. My heart thudded, louder, harder, faster. And then I stood before the door, hesitant. I raised my hand, paused, and then knocked, 3 sharp taps that echoed like a gavel. No answer. I was about to knock again when I heard laughter. A woman's laugh. Then his voice. Muffled. Relaxed. Too relaxed. I didn't wait anymore. I turned the handle, fully expecting it to be locked. It wasn't. The door creaked open, revealing a dimly lit suite. There they were. He was shirtless, holding a wine glass. She was on the couch, wrapped in nothing but a hotel robe, my robe. The same brand, the same embroidery style we had at home. My breath caught in my throat. My fingers went numb. He froze. She gasped. And time it paused. Our eyes met, and for a second, I wondered if he dropped the glass. He didn't. He just blinked, and then he smiled. "You're early," he said. Early? I couldn't process it. Was that his reaction? No shock, no guilt, not even a half-hearted attempt at denial. Just a ridiculous, casual acknowledgement, as if I'd arrived for a dinner reservation we both knew I didn't make. I managed to whisper. My voice was barely audible, even to me. He took a sip from his wine glass, calmly walked over and said, "I was going to tell you, I swear. But tonight, this wasn't supposed to be how it happened." The woman was silent, clutching the robe tighter around her. She looked young, maybe mid-20s. No ring, no remorse, just blankness, like she had slipped into someone else's life without permission. "What is this?" I asked. My voice was rising, cracking. "On our anniversary? In this hotel?" He rubbed his neck and looked almost bored. "You've been so distant lately. I thought we were just going through the motions. I didn't think you'd even remember tonight." That was it. His excuse. That I'd been distant. That somehow I had created the vacuum he'd filled with someone else. I wanted to laugh. Or scream. Or throw something. But all I could do was stare at him, this man I had loved for 10 years, while he stood there making me the reason he cheated. A part of me wanted to believe I was dreaming, that I had fallen asleep waiting for him at home, and this was just some distorted nightmare. But the pain in my chest told me otherwise. I made dinner, I whispered. I lit candles. I waited. He blinked, and for a flicker of a moment, I saw it, regret. Or maybe just discomfort at being caught. I didn't mean to hurt you, he said flatly. You didn't mean to hurt me? I repeated, laughing bitterly. You planned this. You booked a hotel room, brought wine, brought her. And you're telling me you didn't mean to?
He sighed.
Look, I'm sorry. I'll pack up and come home in the morning. We can talk then. I stepped back. I couldn't hear another word. The walls felt like they were closing in. I didn't even realize my eyes were filled with tears until the hallway blurred. I walked out of that hotel room like a ghost. My legs were moving, but my mind hadn't caught up. The hallway blurred. The carpet felt like quicksand under my heels, and the elevator doors took years to open. Once inside, I pressed the ground floor button with a trembling finger and leaned against the mirrored wall, avoiding my reflection. I didn't want to see the woman I had just become, the betrayed wife with mascara-streaked cheeks and heartbreak written all over her. By the time I reached the parking lot, the cold air hit my face like a slap. I inhaled deeply, desperate for clarity. But there was none. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I ignored it. I didn't want his excuses typed out in 160 characters. I didn't want her name. I didn't even want an apology. I sat in my car with the engine running, hands on the steering wheel, trying to decide where to go. Home? To the house that now felt like a stage for a lie? To the bed we had shared? The one he left empty tonight, so he could be wrapped in someone else's arms? Or maybe I could just drive.
Keep going.
Let the road swallow me whole.
But something stopped me. A voice in my chest.
Quiet. Gentle. You don't have to understand everything right now. You just need to breathe. So I did. I sat there, breathing in shaky gasps, while tears streamed silently down my cheeks. The betrayal hadn't even fully landed yet. It was still floating somewhere above me like storm clouds, ready to pour at any moment. I was still in shock. How did we get here? I thought back to our last anniversary. He'd surprised me with a weekend getaway, brought me flowers, wrote a card, said he was grateful for every year with me. How do you go from that to this in 12 months? Or maybe it hadn't been sudden at all. Maybe I'd just missed the signs. There had been moments, small ones, late nights at work. That time he came back from a conference and smelled like unfamiliar perfume. The way he had started pulling away when I touched him, how his laughter became forced, mechanical. And then there were the absences. Emotional absences. Like that day I got sick and he didn't come home. Said he had a meeting. Or when I cried after a miscarriage and he just sat there, staring at the TV like he couldn't feel a thing. I had written those things off as stress, life, routine.
But now?
Now I saw them for what they were, warnings I had silenced because I didn't want the truth. Because I loved him. Because I believed in us. But he didn't. I finally drove home. The house was dark, quiet. The lasagna had burnt in the oven. The candles had melted down to wax puddles. The wine glass I'd poured for him stood untouched, waiting, just like me. I changed into my pajamas like a robot, washed the makeup off my face, and crawled into bed. Not our bed. I couldn't sleep there. I curled up on the guest room mattress, clutching a pillow to my chest like it could hold me back together. I didn't sleep that night. Thoughts chased each other endlessly in my head. Images.
Sounds.
His voice sang, "You've been distant." Her laugh echoing in that hotel suite. The next morning, the light hurt my eyes. I stayed in bed for hours, staring at the ceiling. I didn't cry. Not because I wasn't broken, but because the well had dried. I had used up all my tears in that parking lot. Around 10 a.m., I heard the front door open. Footsteps. Then the sound of his bag hitting the floor. He didn't call out my name. Just moved through the house like a stranger. I didn't go to him. A few minutes later, there was a soft knock on the guest room door. "Can I come in?" he asked. I said nothing. Silence was all I had left to give him. "I'm sorry," he said through the door. "I made a mistake."
A mistake.
Like cheating was something you accidentally stumble into. Like tripping on the sidewalk. I sat up, opened the door, and looked him in the eye. For the first time, I saw someone I didn't recognize. His face was the same, his features unchanged, but the trust one had built there, brick by brick, was gone. He looked nervous. Not because he feared losing me, but because he feared being held accountable. "I don't want to hear excuses," I said. My voice was hoarse, but steady. "I want the truth." He lowered his head. "It wasn't just once. It's been going on for a few months." The air vanished from the room. "Who is she?" I asked. "She works at my firm. We started talking after one of the late nights. It wasn't planned. It just happened." It just happened. That phrase again. That coward's phrase. "And you didn't think I deserved to know?" I whispered. "I didn't want to hurt you," he repeated. I laughed, bitterly this time. "But you did. And not just now. Every single time you lied to my face. Every night you came home and kissed me like nothing was wrong. You hurt me then too." He looked like he wanted to cry, but I wasn't about to comfort him. "I'll give you space," he said finally. "I'll stay somewhere else for a while." And just like that, he left. The door clicked shut behind him, and I exhaled a breath I didn't know I was holding. The silence in the house was louder than any argument we'd ever had. No footsteps. No keys jingling. No forced laughter. Just the hum of the refrigerator and the occasional groan of the wooden floors. But inside me, a storm was brewing. I sat at the dining table, the same one where we had shared meals and conversations and plans. I stared at the empty chair across from me. The chair he used to sit in while scrolling through his phone, half listening to my day. I used to think he was tired. Now I realized he was somewhere else already. Mentally gone long before he ever physically walked out. I picked up my phone and opened our photo album. Our wedding. Our honeymoon in Greece. His hand in mine as we stood under the sunset, smiling like we had discovered the secret to eternal love. And then images of the last 6 months.
Sparse.
Distant. Empty frames filled with fake smiles and forced togetherness. I tapped on a video. It was me at our anniversary dinner, laughing at something he said. He zoomed in on my face and whispered, "You're the best part of my life." The lie hit like a dagger. How many times had I believed words over actions? How many times had I chosen hope over truth? I didn't realize I was crying again until I tasted the salt on my lips. But this time it was different. These tears weren't helpless. They were sacred. They were the pain leaving my body, inch by inch, as I reclaimed myself. I got up, walked into our bedroom, and opened his closet. His shirts, his jackets, that cologne I had gifted him for Valentine's Day. It all felt like props from a play that had closed down. The audience was gone, the stage abandoned. I took a suitcase from the top shelf and started packing his things. One shirt at a time. Not out of revenge, not even out of anger, but out of necessity. This space was sacred. It was mine, and I needed to breathe in it again. Halfway through, I stopped and sat on the edge of the bed. My fingers trembled around one of his sweatshirts. The one he used to wear on Sundays while we watched movies. I clutched it, held it to my face, and sobbed. Deep, guttural sobs that tore through my chest. I wasn't just grieving him. I was grieving us. The version of us I thought was real. The future I had imagined. The children we hadn't yet had. The anniversaries we'd never celebrate. I cried until there was nothing left to cry. Then I stood up, folded the sweatshirt, and zipped the suitcase. When I was done, I sat down again and wrote him a letter. Not because I wanted him back, but because I needed closure. To the man I thought I knew, you betrayed me. Not just with your body, but with your silence, your cowardice, your decision to live a double life and pretend it was love. I don't hate you. I pity you. Because you'll never again have the version of me who loved you completely. You shattered something beautiful, and maybe one day, when the fog of lust lifts, you'll see that. But by then, I'll be long gone. This isn't about revenge. It's about reclaiming myself. I won't beg for explanations. I won't plead for your loyalty. That's not who I am anymore. I am the woman who survived you. And I am proud of her.
Goodbye.
I placed the letter on the dresser, right next to the photo of us at the beach. Then I took the photo out of its frame and tore it in half. I kept my side, my smile, my face. I didn't want to erase my happiness, even if it was wrapped in illusion. But I no longer needed to carry his half with me. Later that day, I called my sister. "I'm okay," I lied. But she knew. "Come stay with me for a few days," she said. And I did. That night, in her guest room, I slept for the first time in 72 hours. A deep, uninterrupted sleep, not because the pain was gone, but because I was no longer running from it. I had faced it, and in facing it, I had taken the first step toward healing. In the morning, I woke up with a strange sense of calm, like I had walked through fire and found I was still standing. I looked at myself in the mirror. My eyes were swollen, my hair unkempt, but I had never looked stronger. This face, this body, this spirit, it had been through heartbreak, and it was still here. Still breathing. Still beautiful. A text popped up on my phone. "Can we talk?" It was him. I stared at it for a full minute. Then I deleted it. No response. No more explanations. No more open doors. I had given him years. He had given me lies. Now I was giving myself something: freedom. And that gift was priceless. Have you ever walked out into the sunlight after days of darkness? That's how it felt when I finally stepped outside, truly feeling the warmth on my skin again, not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually. For the first time in what felt like forever, I inhaled deeply, without feeling like I was choking on my own heartbreak. It was like waking up from a long, cold sleep. In those moments of stillness, something miraculous began to unfold inside me. A revelation. Not loud or dramatic, but gentle, powerful, undeniable. I wasn't broken. I was becoming. Every lie he told had chiseled away a piece of my old self, but not to destroy me. To reveal what was underneath, a woman stronger than betrayal, wiser than before, and ready to reclaim every lost piece of her soul. I sat by the window at my sister's house and journaled, something I hadn't done in years. Not about him.
About me.
Who I was. What I deserved. What I would never again tolerate. I wrote until my hand ached. And then I paused, tears silently sliding down my cheeks. But this time, they weren't tears of pain. They were tears of realization. I had spent so long waiting for someone to choose me, value me, stay loyal to me. But somewhere in that wait, I had forgotten that I am allowed to choose myself. I looked back on the signs I had ignored. The late-night calls he dismissed as work, the sudden guarding of his phone, the way he no longer looked at me during conversations, like I had become background noise. And the saddest part? I had trained myself to accept crumbs and call them a feast. No more. This wasn't just about walking away from him. It was about walking back toward myself. I started small. I made a list titled, "Things that Bring Me Back to Life." Painting. Early morning walks. Coffee shops with soft jazz. Reading poetry aloud. Buying myself fresh flowers. Turning off my phone and sitting with silence. And I promised myself I'd do at least one of these things every day. Because healing wasn't going to be a dramatic scene, it would be a series of quiet rebellions. Choosing peace over chaos. Choosing joy over history. Choosing me over everything that made me feel less than whole. One afternoon, I passed by a bookstore. The kind I used to get lost in before my life became centered around someone else's schedule, someone else's moods. I went in, drawn by a poetry book on the display. I opened it to a random page, and this line stared back at me. She remembered who she was, and the game changed. I laughed. Out loud. Right there in the store. Not because it was funny, but because it felt like the universe had whispered, "Yes, this is for you." That night, I looked at my reflection again. And for the first time, I saw not just a woman recovering, but a woman rising. I cooked dinner for myself. Lit candles. Played music. Not because someone was coming over, but because I was with me, and that was reason enough. Healing, I realized, wasn't about waiting for the pain to go away. It was about choosing joy in the middle of it. Some nights, I still missed him. Not the real him. The idea of him. The version I fell in love with. The The man who used to leave notes on the fridge, who laughed until he cried, who held me when I felt small. But that man had vanished long before the cheating. And maybe, just maybe, I had fallen more in love with the fantasy than the reality. Coming to terms with that was like setting a caged bird free. The heartbreak didn't define me. My response to it did. One morning, as I sipped my coffee on the porch, I got another message. Not from him, but from someone else. An old friend I hadn't heard from in years. Hey, I heard. I just want you to know, I always thought you were amazing. If you ever need a reminder, I'll be here. I smiled. Because life has a way of bringing the right people back when your soul is finally aligned with truth. I wasn't looking for a new love, but I was open. Open to goodness, to authenticity, to people who saw me without needing to own me. That was the turning point. I wasn't just healing. I was awakening. To myself. To my power. To the truth that had always been there, waiting patiently beneath the noise. I used to think healing would look like forgetting him completely. But I've learned now, it doesn't. Healing looks like remembering without aching. It's being able to hear his name in a conversation and not feel my stomach twist. It's passing a familiar street or hearing a song we once shared and simply letting it pass. No weight, no sting, just a silent smile, knowing I've grown so far beyond that chapter that it can no longer pull me back. This is what becoming whole feels like. It's not loud or showy. There was no grand revenge. No dramatic confrontation. No perfect closure wrapped in a bow. It was quiet strength, gentle truth, unshakable peace. I didn't need to post my journey. I didn't need to prove anything. Because true healing happens when no one is watching. I started making plans again. Dreams I had set aside began to resurface. Not the dreams we once shared, but mine. I enrolled in a photography class, bought a secondhand camera, and started capturing the beauty I had been too broken to see before. Light filtering through trees. Wrinkles on the faces of old lovers at the park. Raindrops on cafe windows. Each photo was a whisper from my soul. You're here. You're alive.
Keep going.
I found joy in the simplest things. A good book. A quiet night. A text from a friend that just said, "Proud of you." A walk under the moon. Alone but not lonely. I even began laughing again. Deep, belly-shaking laughter that came from a place of genuine joy, not performative politeness. And yes, people noticed. You seem different. You're glowing. You've changed. They said it like it was surprising. But I didn't change. I returned. Returned to the woman I was before I dimmed my light to fit inside someone else's shadows. One day, I saw him again. Not in some epic run-in or dramatic scene. Just randomly. A coffee shop.
He walked in.
We locked eyes. And in that instant I felt it. No anger. No pain. No longing. Just gratitude. Because if he hadn't broken me, I would have never rebuilt myself. If he hadn't left, I wouldn't have returned home to me. He looked older. A little heavier with regret. I could see it in his eyes. The questions, the silent wish to start over. But I had no desire to open that door again. I nodded politely. He nodded back. And that was it. No words exchanged. No apology needed. No revenge served. Only peace. Because forgiveness had already done its job inwardly. Later, a friend asked if I'd ever consider going back to him. I smiled gently and said, "Why would I go back to the fire I barely survived? I was born to rise, not to return." The version of me who waited by the phone, who questioned her worth based on someone else's actions, she doesn't exist anymore. Now I wear red lipstick because I want to. I take myself out to dinner and sit confidently, no longer afraid of being seen alone. I speak truth even if my voice trembles. I protect my peace like it's the most valuable thing I own because it is. And love? I'm not bitter. I still believe in love. But now I believe in the kind of love that doesn't hurt, doesn't lie, doesn't ask you to shrink. I believe in alignment, not attachment. I believe in love that feels like freedom, not survival. And if it never comes again, that's okay too. Because the love I've cultivated within myself, it's more than enough. Every scar on my heart now glows with wisdom. Every tear I shed became the water that grew me. Every sleepless night was a seed planted, now blooming in the garden of my becoming. I'm proud of that woman who cried on the bathroom floor, who doubted her worth, who kept quiet when her soul was screaming, because she is the reason I stand tall today. I no longer carry shame for having loved him. I carry strength for surviving it. If you're reading this and still in your version of that heartbreak, hold on. It gets better. You get better. And one day, you'll wake up and feel what I feel now.
Free. Whole.
Glorious. Not because someone chose you, but because you finally chose yourself. And darling, that's the real love story.